A correction procedure is a decision-making procedure that you're making when a child makes an incorrect response. You've already taught it, they've already provided correct responses in the past, and now they've provided an incorrect response. You want to get them as quickly as possible back to that correct response because you don't want continued mistakes. And so you have to make sure. A lot of us don't realize how important it is to go through a whole teaching process. Some people are really good, they realize, oh, we don't want to end on that incorrect response. We want to make sure we do it again, they get it correct, but that's it, they stop there. Some people end on the incorrect response and don't even realize that is very detrimental to end a task on an incorrect response. We carry everything further when we're working with our kids. So correction procedure is part of errorless learning because you're going back to that thought of I need to prompt to get the correct response. We need to go back. If you get it incorrect, I'm going to immediately prompt you because I don't want that neuron path of mistakes getting to be more strong. I want to get you back on the correct response path. But because they were able to do it before, you're not going to stick with that prompt. Okay? So the idea is when the child gives a incorrect response or no response, you're not just saying no or you're not just saying try again. You're going through a whole teaching process. Okay? So you're presenting the original SD if you have a correct or incorrect response or a no response. This is where you're starting on that decision tree that I showed you in the book. If it's correct, great, yay, they got it. Incorrect, you continue on to step 2. No response, you just want to make sure. Is it a no response because they didn't know, they didn't understand, or you didn't have their attention? Just make sure it wasn't because of inattention. If it is, then just redo it and make sure that you either now get a response or the no response really was because they don't get it. Okay? Adjust your prompt level. This is where you want to try to use the least intrusive prompt for that child because once you engage in that prompt, you need to fade it out. If you go really heavy on the prompting, you're going to take longer to get back out because your goal is in this procedure to get them back to that independent response that they were able to do before. So don't prompt too much because you need to come out with it. You restate the SD with the prompt, you reinforce that correct response with the prompt, but not that big reinforcer, a tiny little one because you're still teaching them, yes, that's what I want you to do, but you don't want them to get the big thing because then they'll just think, oh, great, I don't care then about doing the independent. So you go back to getting that original. If you get the correct response, you might do this one 3 times because you have to fade out. You need to do three levels of backing yourself back up with those prompts if you provide a lot of prompting. Depending on where they were, the most independent response that they were able to do before is what you're working towards, and then you get that correct response here back to where you were at the beginning, where they were able to be correct before. Okay, so say you went through that correction procedure. If you're successful, there's another step, and this is a step that most people don't do. They don't do what we call distractor trials. Oh, good job, what's this letter? What's that color? And then you come back. What's 2 plus 2? Because if you've distracted them, are they still able to come back now and give you that independent response? A lot of times they're not. And then you really know something's going on with their learning and you have to work on it. But if you didn't do that check, you didn't know that. So you may have ended on that independent response, but then you didn't come back to make sure that they could do it again. So that's a big step there, is doing that, distractor trials and coming back again to that to make sure. If it's a really difficult, important skill, I even do another task and then I tell the paraeducator, okay, go back to that one, just throw it in there, see what we get. Do we get an independent response? Because we don't want the child having mistakes, ending on a mistake, all those sorts of things. So if you're unsuccessful and you've increased your prompting level, you may need to reevaluate your whole teaching procedure. This correction procedure is what allows you to know if things are not going well. Because you go through that, it's your own teaching tool to know, man, we keep getting these incorrect responses. Something's going wrong with our teaching in the first place. What do we need to do?